alongside the confirmation for the full route of the HS2 railway expected on February 11. The UK's Department for Transport, DfT, has announced new funding of £5 billion to boost bus use and bicycling. £1 billion is to be spent on building 250 miles of new, high-quality separated cycle routes and safe junctions in towns and cities across England. There was no such plans in the Conservative election manifesto before December's election, although Labour had pledged £7 billion for active transport such as walking and cycling. The DfT also announced that dozens of new Mini Holland schemes will be created. These pilots of low-traffic neighborhoods are modeled on Dutch schemes and make local streets safer to walk, cycle and play in while maintaining some motor vehicle access. As a core part of the government's work to create a long-term cycling program and budget, all new routes will be built to tough new design standards, said a DfT statement announcing the plans. Prime Minister Boris Johnson said, improving connectivity by overhauling bus services and making cycling easier than ever is such an important step forward, to make sure every community has the foundations it needs to thrive. Transport Secretary Grant Shapps added, our long-term commitment to cycling could not be clearer, with money for new routes, more cyclist support and new Mini Holland schemes, set to make our streets the safest they have been for cyclists. The full plans for improving buses will be announced in the National Bus Strategy, to be published later this year. The cycling and walking investment will be used to help deliver the government's aim of doubling cycling by 2025. It will be a mix of capital and revenue funding, and will be additional to the funding that is already committed to be spent on cycling and walking over the next 5 years from wider funding sources. The DfT said the money will be allocated to towns and cities with well-developed plans for cycling and walking networks, such as those set out in local cycling and walking infrastructure plans. British Cycling's policy advisor, Chris Boardman, who is also the Walking and Cycling Commissioner for Greater Manchester, said, as always, the devil is in the detail. But this is certainly a step in the right direction, and it is encouraging to see the Prime Minister picking up much of the great work he did as Mayor of London, such as tough design standards and Mini Hollands. We know that investment in cycling and walking has the potential to transform Britain's towns and cities into healthier, cleaner, and more vibrant places to live and work, but getting there will require far more than just 250 miles of segregated lanes. We hope that this is just the start of the new government's ambitions, and await further details of their long-term cycling program and budget with interest. Before he became Prime Minister, Johnson was an everyday transportation cyclist who, in 2007, joked that, after the theft of his bicycle, he would introduce Sharia law for bicycle thieves. Like David Cameron, the previous bicycling Prime Minister, Johnson has had his wings clipped by security officials, and he is ferried around in armoured cars rather than be allowed to cycle on London's streets. Former journalist Andrew Gilligan is one of Johnson's key transport advisors. Gilligan was cycling commissioner when Johnson was Mayor of London, and it was Gilligan, not Johnson, who was most responsible for pushing through London's protected cycleway programme. When Gilligan was cycling czar, from 2013 to 2016, London built its curb-protected cycle superhighways, which have since been renamed as cycleways. Gilligan has strong views on cycling, and on the ills of mass motorization. Last year he told Cyclist magazine that the vast majority of road space is given to the least efficient users of it. He added, "Cyclists don't emit any pollution, they don't create much congestion if any, and they're not a safety risk." His was the most radically pro-cycling voice inside 10 Downing Street since the entrance of, well, Johnson himself. Gilligan told Cyclist last year, "I don't believe that the answer to London's transport problems is a vast slew of new railways or transport links. I think the answer is cycling actually." In 2018 Gilligan wrote a report for the National Infrastructure Commission on the potential for cycling in Oxford, Cambridge, and Milton Keynes. Running Out of Road recommended the rollout of many miles of protected cycleways to encourage cycling.